What's going on there, folks? Welcome back here on this Tuesday. It is the Earthmaster back at it on this January 23rd, 2024 date. It is about 12:25 p.m. here, California time. Latest activity shows a 1.1 earthquake down in Southern California. We did have a 4.3 yesterday. We'll take a look here at the earthquake activity in just a minute. Still looking at some inflation activity going on underneath the Grindavik area. This is the 8-hour run up into today's date, still showing inflation there as we head towards February. Still looking at the potential of future eruptive fissure activity not going down, so that means that we're still accumulating some magma underneath the area of Grindavik. Now, looking at the earthquake activity here, scattered out and about, 42 earthquakes over the last 12 hours. The latest one there shows a little small point 0.2 somewhere out here in the red little dot, but specifically around the area of Grindavik, which is down here, just still seeing a little bit of swarming going on. Nothing big, no major uptick in terms of earthquake activity, but we're continuing to watch that. Obviously, inflation is still showing some activity there. Definitely keep an eye on it. All right, earthquake activity here on the global scale. There's the last 24 hours of earthquake activity. Still seeing some movement out here in China, far western regions here of China, where we did see that larger earthquake activity strike yesterday. Still seeing some movement out here. In the last 24 hours, got about 27 earthquakes. Now the total tally out here in the last 7 days or so brings it up a little bit, including the larger quake that struck in this area, which was a 7.0 decent size earthquake. January of 2024 has been quite active in terms of earthquake activity, and of course we started off the year with that powerful X 5.0 flare. We'll take a look at space weather activity here in a little bit, but still seeing some movement out here in the China area. Always a possibility we could see some aftershock activity on the large size as well. South of Tokyo out here across the area of the Izu Trench. A couple earthquakes from, one yesterday, one today, 5.0. Fairly deep into the area of the Volcano Islands area. This is going to be the southern portion of the Izu Trench here, where that deeper activity occurred today, 5.0. 144 kilometers deep for that quake. Looking back over here across the plate boundary, earlier this morning we did see a 6.3 earthquake into the area. Look at that. Kind of getting synchronous here with the numbers. 6.3 at 6:33 in the morning. At least my time anyway, local time. 37 kilometers deep. It's been a little quiet across this area recently with movement back and forth here around Papua New Guinea and deeper activity here. It always tends to fill in, and we definitely filled it in there this morning with the 6.3. Fairly shallow, 37 kilometers deep. We'll keep an eye on this area today. Looks like we did get a little bit of movement further south here, across the Kermadec Trench. 124 kilometers deep for a 4.9. This earthquake coming in just an hour or so after the 6.3 up here. So strain appears to be building back across this area of the Kermadec Trench, which probably includes New Zealand down there. Looks like we've had a couple earthquakes down there in New Zealand overnight in the 3 range. Lots of 3s going on there. So let's go double check the New Zealand site from the GeoNet servers here and see what we have going on. 5 hours ago, 2.1. Their time yesterday, 3.0. 3.4. A couple other earthquakes here. 3.5 2 days ago, but let's see what we got for the drums here across New Zealand real quick. See if there's anything of noteworthy value. Of course, earthquake activity out in New Zealand, very common, right? 2s and 3s kick up. And there's certain areas across New Zealand that are well overdue for larger quakes, but right now things look minimal in terms of earthquake activity across that major plate boundary that they sit on. All right, let's see what else we got. Hawaii shaking up here a little bit out in the middle of the Pacific. Nothing going on here across the Kilauea volcano in terms of earthquake activity. So let's see what we got here from the HVO. I'm betting you that it says the same thing as yesterday. Let's see. Kilauea volcano is currently not erupting. Seismic activity has been low and no unusual activity has been observed at the summit or the southwest or east rift zones. So, still just waiting on this thing in terms of eruptive activity. I'll check out the tilt meter and see how high it's going. It was going up and up and up yesterday in terms of inflation there across the summit area of Kilauea volcano. We'll get a little peek at it right now. Ooh, we took a little sharp dive here. Looks like about 12 hours or so ago. Took a little nosedive in terms of deflation, but still overall trends here shows that this area is, obviously still inflated. And this peak right here is the highest level seen at the summit region since 2018. So it's common to see these little dips here. And more than likely, over the next 2 days or so, we should mellow out, level out here before another uptick in terms of inflation going back up. We'll continue to watch that and monitor it for any further activity. Quick glance here at the lava lake area of Kilauea volcano shows volcanic gases, but that's been an ongoing thing here for a little bit. Even when there's not eruptive activity at the surface levels, that volcanic gas finds its way through the tiniest cracks in the ground here in the former lava field. Well, it's still a lava field, but of lava lake, and it makes its way to the surface here. And it, volcanic gases, easily detectable out here. All right, what else we got here for the rest of the map? Alaska, still seeing some earthquake activity up here outside the Aurora Lodge area. I know that was a 5-pointer, I think 5.3, but that's a lot of earthquake activity following a 5-pointer. All kind of kicked off with a 5.3. Really haven't seen any larger quakes. Most of this movement here in the 2 and 1 range, even to this hour. But it seems like a lot of aftershock activity. So continue to watch that. Really not seeing any migration here of the movement. But to me, it just seems like a lot for a 5-pointer. All right, Northern California. Seen an earthquake last night. This is a very interesting earthquake here because it is down into the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. It is not a surface rupture fault. It's not on one of these surface faults up here. This is down into the area, about 35 kilometers deep. Now, that is where the tremor activity tends to take place. The tremor is going to be, let me bring up the tremor map here real quick. Tremor map shows nothing, by the way, but if we were to go back the past week, we would see a little bit of tremor and a little bit there in Northern California, but inland. So if you can picture here that this activity is occurring into the subduction zone, which sits underneath the North American plate here, underneath this landmass right here. Down there, 35, 45 kilometers deep, we get this tremor activity, and it's kind of like a slow slip type of earthquake. I don't like to tack on the earthquake name to it because it's really not, but it is a slow vibrational frequency and movement between the two plates. And when that happens, we add strain. We do add further strain upstream where the tension tends to build. And over the past week, we did see a little bit of activity here down into that subduction zone area of the Cascadia. And then last night we seen this earthquake pop up, 35 kilometers deep for a 4.3. So it tells me that strain is definitely up here in this area. It's right, probably just right prior to the where the tremor activity takes place. So we'll keep an eye on that. We didn't really see anything else following that 4.3, but yeah, 35 kilometers deep. Obviously, that's a subduction zone earthquake here. And, I've covered Cascadia a lot out here. And, I think a lot of us know about it. A lot of us don't. But this fault system here, this subduction zone, is very capable of producing a 9.0 or greater earthquake. And it's been 324 years since the last major rupture out here. Now, there is intervals of partial ruptures where we see an 8.1 to 8.5 or so at the southern end here of the Cascadia subduction zone. And we haven't seen one of those even prior to it was prior to the 1700 earthquake, where it was a full rupture. So it's possible we could see, we're getting ready to see a partial rupture out here. No guarantee, could be a full rupture, but all I know is there's a lot of time that's been built up here, a lot of strain. Depending on who you ask, regular intervals of large earthquakes occur between 250 and 500 years. And that's just an average statement. But, 324 years, we're building up strain. It could happen today, it could happen tomorrow, it could happen 100 years from now. But we'll keep watching these little signs. One thing I've noticed, though, in my studies of tremor activity is the lack of tremor activity right now. In the past, well, our last big time event occurred in October of 2022. We didn't really see too much activity back there in this last year, 2023. We've seen a couple small events here back in May and April, but since then it's been very minimal, with a handful of earthquakes here and there. And it seems like whenever we do get tremor, that's when we start noticing some earthquake activity upstream, like some crustal earthquakes going on up here. So that tells me right there things are a little tight, a little tense down there, and strained. So we'll kind of watch this and see how it plays out. There has been quiet zones in the past. Looks like maybe 2016 to 2018 or so. But, these regular occurrences of large tremor events we're getting almost predictable. And then all of a sudden it stops and we get extreme minimal tremor activity. So, like I say, I think it's key to watch this activity here, the tremor, in hopes of predicting or forecasting the next mega quake out here along the Cascadia. For now, though, we sleep, or the subduction zone sleeps. Let's see, what else do we have out here across California? 2.5 map and above shows that 4.3 up here, of course, and a 2.6 way down south here off the Imperial Fault. In between there and here, well, we got microquake activity. No major swarming going on. A little bit of interesting activity out here northwest of Las Vegas. That's been I guess a little hot spot of some small microquake activity. There is some fault systems that sit up here, and these are relatively shallow faults and shallow earthquake activity that's kicking up there. Working its way up around this mountain range, it looks like there in Utah, up towards Yellowstone. But Yellowstone right now doesn't look like we're seeing any earthquake activity. One way south here of the Grand Teton National Park, northeast of Jackson, Wyoming, a 1.9. Let's see what we have for the earthquake activity there in Yellowstone. Wow, are we missing some? Kind of looks like they took a couple of these maps off of here. They did. Not for sure why, but they're missing. Earthquake activity, though, is really non-existent. Really not seeing anything major going on here. This goes to today, right? Yes, it does. 23rd. Some S waves here, it looks like. That's got to be from that earthquake in Vanuatu this morning. Some of those wavy lines. This right here, not for sure what it is. I don't know if it's some geyser activity or what, but it's really not showing up across any of the other seismograph stations out here. But we're missing, like I say, there's a few missing out here. Hopefully it gets that fixed. I guess we will see. Let's see what else we got across the states. Anything major going on? Oil fields in Texas, Oklahoma. One earthquake, right now in the new Madrid seismic zone. Goodness, 2.8 near Trimble, Tennessee. 4.2 kilometers deep. We did see a 1.8 in this area earlier this morning as well. I want to see if I can bring up the... that's going to be Southern California. I need a... hole in the wall. All right, let me bring up... This has got to be it here, I think. I'm looking for the... where'd he go? Seismograph stations there in the new Madrid seismic zone. That's California, Nevada. I got so many. I need to go through these and sort them out. It's just been one of my deals here where I accumulate a lot of a lot of these links to to various sites. So I'll check this out maybe a little bit later here. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but here we go. So around the new Madrid seismic zone, this site right here, the Siri site, Memphis.education site, we're able to check all the seismograph stations out here. And where's that quake activity? Northeast of Memphis. That's going to be roughly right around here, it looks like. I'm kind of curious to see what these look like. That's a distant earthquake from the station. So maybe up further north. See what it looks like on this one. Still see that little distant spike on the graph there. I don't think it was that far north. Seems like we're missing a little bit of activity here, but either way, yeah, it looks like that 2.8 did show up here in the last half hour or so. I'm just kind of keeping an eye on that because that's another fault system out here that's very capable of producing some large damaging earthquakes. And back in 1800 or so, that's when had a series of large earthquakes in the upper 7 range. So it's little stuff like this let me know that this fault system out here is still very much alive. Intraplate fault system. See what else we got across the Caribbean plate. Nothing major going on. In fact, a lot of this is from yesterday. We only had 2 earthquakes after midnight in this area. A couple 2s out here around the Puerto Rico area. So somewhat quiet here today. Getting a little swarming activity here across this area of the Peru-Chile Trench. This region here north of Santiago, Chile, is a major subduction zone and very capable of producing some large quakes out here. For now, though, looks like a couple 4s out there. Continue to watch it. We did see some divergent boundary activity out here, it looks like, in the oceanic crust. That could put a little bit of further strain out here across this region. That was from yesterday, so it's probably why we're seeing a little bit of uptick out here today in that area of the world. Let's see what else we got. Not a whole lot across the Atlantic, the Mediterranean out here. Let's see what we got. Looks like a 3.1 coming in right now to that area around the Mediterranean Sea. Still seeing earthquake activity across China. Again, the Atlantic quiet, Iceland quiet for now. Watch that, though, for earthquake activity. Space weather. Space weather is definitely picking up here. Unfortunately, we did not see any G2 class storming coming in, did we? See, that's what I call a dud of a forecast, right? It was put out, though, from the professionals, and I tend to follow what the professionals have to say when it comes to forecasting space weather activity. But it only looks like it peaked up around the KPNX of 3.5. Didn't even make the G1 class storm. So if we didn't get it now, if we're not seeing it now, it had probably missed us. This is what Kevin's stating here as well on the geomagnetic forecast. It was either too weak to fully notice, or it completely missed us. I'm guessing, this little uptick we've seen was it, and it was just we barely got a slight glancing blow from that CME that passed us here yesterday. But another thing here, though, is we're kind of crackling with some decent flaring. Look at all these M flares that have kicked up here in the last couple days. A lot of these. The strongest one was a M5.1 from yesterday, so we're looking at the potential in this type of setup there to see possibly an impulsive type X flare with this movement going on. There's a couple different sunspots, 3561 and 3559 here. 61 and 59, they're ginormous and also very complex. So let's check out the most recent imagery today. Is going to have 3559 pointing right at us here. Look at these two regions. They are super dynamic and eating up pretty much everything around it. I definitely think we're going to see the potential for some X flare activity here soon from one of these sunspots. I think if I had to pick one, it would be this area down here. Just looking at the complexity of the core, it's got a dynamic setup, but don't count this area out either. So we'll watch these two sunspots. Overall threat right now, according to the solarham.net site, shows a 10% chance for X flare, but I think we're a little bit higher than that. 75% chance for M flare, C flare at 99% chance. And again, we're popping here with M flares, and this type of activity up and down shows that it's very unstable and stuff like that. This type of reading on a graph is when we see an impulsive X flare type event. So we'll continue to watch that. They do have the potential for G1 storming across the board. Maybe potential for some auroras at the higher latitudes. I guess they're basing this on the past couple CMEs that have shot off the sun. But really not expecting much here. I think they're just putting that up there just to cover any potential solar storms that may be heading this way. Let's see what we got for weather outlook here today. Severe weather, current day 1 outlook out here across Texas. There's a marginal risk here for some severe weather. That includes a 2% chance for tornado probability across Houston, Pasadena, College Station, Texas area. So just a heads up with some of these storms that are firing up. Also a looks like 5% chance for wind and hail events. They're limited to the southeastern Texas area. The numerical models here will show that storm system spinning up, some moisture there and convection. Next storm system here set to arrive on the west coast, it looks like, as we head into Wednesday, early Wednesday or so. And there's definitely going to be a decent weather pattern change here as we head into February for the west coast. At least I hope it is. It looks a lot less active right now. See, these things change like crazy. I don't even like looking out that far because I get my hopes up in terms of a strong system out here along the west coast, and then it just fades away. So this is a GFS model run for Wednesday. Looks pretty decent there. And I just kind of want to see how far this goes ahead. Yeah, it's got a decent system on the 31st or so. I'm hoping it stays that way. Either way, I was just looking at the jet stream out here. Let me show you guys real quick the Northern Pacific jet. That plays a major part on what goes on across a good portion of the country. Literally. Our last split flow event here, where the Pacific jet went way up north and then went way down south here over the 48, brought in a whole bunch of that super cold air. And then the southern portion of the jet kind of hit out over here across the southeast. That is not going to be the case here in the next couple runs. It looks like we're going to be aiming the west coast. I hope this stretches a little bit further because it does split right here across California. That could still mean some decent storm systems potentially clipping the Northern California area. But this is very impressive in terms of the jet stream strength and the zonal flow that is aiming right at the west coast. Now, if we could just get rid of this little split flow, that would be good. But this type of flow right here is going to increase some warmer temperatures across a good portion of the country. And then as we put that into motion here into the first, maybe the second week of February, we're getting another split flow that could bring some colder air down. So I'm hoping this changes. This is not 100% set in stone. These models are just used as a baseline to maybe see what could go on here. And we'll continue to watch these runs and see how they play out. But either way, it looks like we do have some more wet weather coming up here for California. And that's good. We definitely need the rainfall. Temperatures out here are supposed to be a little bit warmer than normal as we look at this forecast here. There's a whole lot of warmness going on up there in Canada. We're talking about maybe 20 degrees warmer than average. That's some decent temperature increases up there compared to the colder weather that we've seen here recently up there in that part of the country. But either way, we'll figure it out. There's a little face right there as we head into the end of the model. I guess it's just a surprise face, right? Kind of like saying, oh, what's going to happen? I guess we'll leave it at that because we really don't know 100% what's going to happen here that far out. A lot of things can change. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Got to get back to some school work. Just took a little break here so I can get my get the update in here. Seismograph stations, a little spike there in Chile. But aside from that, all seismograph stations, at least I have set up here now, are quiet and stable. So we'll catch you guys back out here a little bit later tonight with the Tuesday night update. Take care, folks, and enjoy your day.